Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Ifeni, the great Malabite.
Good morning. Good morning, Ruben. Good morning, Ayo. Good morning, Rufai. What's happening to the blue color? Well, the Malabites have to go gray in that way. You can't conspire against us. Now, let's start the review with this Nigeria's newspaper of record. The lead story, IMF. Tinubu's policy paving way for inclusive growth revises Nigeria's growth prospects downwards to 2.9%. Edu, with global rise in debt service costs, Nigeria focus on encouraging domestic foreign investments. Now, of course, the IMF meeting that is taking place in Marrakesh, Morocco. Of course, our own Nkeshinana covering that event. And yesterday, the IMF launched the World Economic Outlook, that annual meeting in Marrakech. And of course, looking at the African horizon, the report stated that we see Africa growth at 3.34%, and that is above average, but it is below the potential that Africa has and needs to catch up more quickly. Of course, for Nigeria in particular, the report states we have a growth forecast that goes from 3.3% this year to 2.9%. Yes, but the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister for the Economy talking about the debt situation that as a result, of course, a situation where we spend almost all our earnings, 95% or thereabout, to service debt, that Nigeria will not, the government will not focus on encouraging domestic investment, but how is the climate at home, even for domestic investors and players in the economy, manufacturers, and all that. Now, the Punch newspaper taking the story from that angle. Forex crisis. Naira plunges to 1,025 naira to the dollar. Job losses. Factory shut down. Loom. Forex crisis hinders raw material procurement, causes financial problem. NECA, the Nigerian Employers Consultative Association, SMEs decry impending shutdown. Reps probe airlines, schools demanding dollar. Yes, the measures taken by the Tinubu administration, which the IMF has said is paving way for inclusive growth. Well, with the Naira, the much talked about harmonization has not happened despite the best effort, and the Naira is just plunging all the way with all the consequences for importation of raw materials for manufacturers. And manufacturers, of course, attempting to pass that cost to the consumers, and they are stuck with a lot of goods in their warehouses. Now, the Daily Trust newspaper reporting the IMF meeting amidst high inflation, IMF asks CBN to continue raising interest rates. Economic growth too weak for that. Experts are cautioning. Nigeria's growth projection cut to 2.9% are focused on non-debt funds flow. Federal government stabilize Naira, curb speculative forex. Reps urge the CBN, the House of Representative member, wading in there. Now, the New Telegraph newspaper, oil theft, Senate orders probe of security agencies in Niger Delta, says Nigeria has lost 2.3 trillion naira revenue this year. Reps probe use of dollar as legal tender, threat over reduction in investment. Say weaker naira will increase external debt servicing costs, stunt economic growth, hinder job creation. So a lot of bottlenecks in the economy, even as the Tinubu administration tries to solve the problem at hand. What Ruben Abati has called Tinubunomics. Is it working? Of course, players in the industry have their say on that. Now, the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, crude oil serves Senate to probe security forces militia group. Yes, just beside the photograph, Nigerian employers pay over 60 different taxes annually. NECA saying that they pay so much. How is that environment conducive when employers, manufacturers pay so much taxes annually? Now, below the photograph, the Nigerian Tribune, contractors in gang up against federal government over policy on asphalt. Works minister, compromised staff will be flushed out, sent to ICPC. He says, Minister of Works, Dave Umai, having this face-off with contractors, and the Daily Sun also reporting that story. Tinubu backs Umai over war against contractors. Minister threatens to drag erring contractors to ICPC, EFCC. Now, this problem between Dave Umai and contractors, saying that roads now will be constructed using concrete. But contractors, I want to believe contractors who already have their contracts signed are thinking otherwise. And the Daily Independent newspaper also reporting that story. Minister, contractors on collision costs over concrete road. Federal government gives contractors strict conditions to use asphalt. Yes, after all the face-off with contractors, face-off with staff, can't the Minister of Works get down to business and ensure that federal roads are constructed, because a lot of federal roads are in very deplorable condition. Now, the Vanguard newspaper, I'll just start with the story above the masthead of the Vanguard. Clark decries deplorable state of roads in South-South. That's Chief Edwin Clark, Pa Clark, elder statesman. And he's saying that the roads in the Niger Delta area are in deplorable situation. Yes, I can confirm that, but not only in the Niger Delta. Federal roads elsewhere are also in deplorable condition. And this is a challenge before Dave Umai and the federal government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, the lead story of the Vanguard newspaper, Israel-Hamas war. Federal government holds pilgrimage as Lagos leaves 310 from Jerusalem. Israel pounds Gaza despite threats to kill hostages. Death toll exceed 1,900 as oil prices surge. Conflict taking horrendous toll on children. UNICEF. Now, if we just look at the foreign newspapers quickly, expectedly, of course, the Israel-Hamas war on the front pages of the foreign newspaper, The Guardian of UK, Israeli troops mass on Gaza border as Hamas attack, death toll hits 1,000. UN issues warning over humanitarian disaster as invasion appears likely. The Daily Telegraph newspaper, also of UK, reporting Hamas massacres babies, children, families found murdered in their homes as Israeli death toll reaches 1,000. The Washington Post also reporting that story. Israeli forces ready their offensive. Reprisal is to change reality in Gaza. Ruben, Rufai, and Ayo.
Okay, so let's talk about issues within this morning. Let's talk about a screaming headline in front of the Punch newspaper. I think they can show the Punch newspaper.
Punch newspaper. Put up the Punch newspaper there.
The Punch newspaper say dollar to naira is 1,025
naira to
and
the
the
dollar.
question is, how did we get here? We all know how we got here. We all know how we got here. Cumulation of bad leadership from 8 years ago. If you were to look at the dollar to naira rate in 8 years ago, as at 2015, it was less than 200, or just a little over 200. The naira has lost 40% of its value. And all of these are because of bad economic decisions. So How do we dig ourselves back out of it? Can we even get to a place where naira to dollar looks better? It's a tale we have to answer ourselves. Also, there's been talk about queues. In fact, they said some filling stations are shutting down as we speak. But you know, the normal refrain we'll normally hear from government is, we have enough to meet local production capacity and all of that.
Perhaps we should just put up the leadership newspaper
Very
there.
good.
The leadership newspaper, liter of petrol sells for 700 naira, 650 naira in Sokoto, Gombe, others. Marketers blame high cost of diesel for increase. Queue resurfaces
So
in Abuja.
in all of this,
yes,
we have not heard anything. And I would like to ask, they said they are going to start this. Where is the presidential CAG initiative? Because we keep talking about conversion kits. At a point, they said they bought, but where are the buses? And please, I'd like to ask you, have you entered any CNG powered
but I don't use buses.
No,
I don't use
I'm
public
just, okay, I'd like to ask everybody.
Those who use will confirm.
Have you entered any public CNG powered buses and all of that?
I saw something though, Rufai, in Lagos,
yes.
electricity powered buses.
No, I'm
so I've seen a
CNG.
few of them. And I'm just mentioning in terms of alternative forms. Yes, I just have to give kudos to them because I've
Public
seen
transport.
public transport.
Okay,
I've seen them.
that's a good one.
Yeah, that's
But
good.
CNG powered buses, because they keep saying the conversion kits will come and all of that. Do we even have enough supply in the CNG power station? How many CNG power stations? In fact, there's only one CNG power station I've seen, and that's the one on that Lagos-Ibadan expressway. When you are leaving Lagos through Berger, you just see the right CNG.
The conversion center.
No, the station,
Where you-
CNG filter, and I've not even tried to drive in there also. Ask, is there CNG? So we have an energy crisis on our hands, and this is also vis-a-vis the Israel-Ukraine war. But the difference is that because we have maliciously destroyed our economy.
Ukraine-Russia war?
I mean, no, Ukraine-Russia war and Israel-Hamas conflict. But the difference is that we can't even reap from the proceeds of these wars again because we have destroyed, and corruption has eaten the good benefits of our economy. Nigeria became rich after Yom Kippur War in 1973, where crude oil prices rose from $3 per barrel to about $12 per barrel. That was when Gowon said the problem is not money, but how to spend it. That was when we had to give Udoji award. But now, because we have disrupted our economy, even the Gulf War gave us some good money.
Yeah.
But now, because we disrupted our economy so much, with all this corruption, we can't even reap for the benefit of $100 per barrel.
Oil prices
And all of that any longer. So we need to watch it.
A number of comments. First, front page of Vanguard, I think, which says federal government holds pilgrimage
Yes.
as Lagos leaves 310.
Yes, that's the Vanguard
310
newspaper,
persons from
yes.
Jerusalem. I think that is, something to be noted. And Lagos State Ministry of Home Affairs were told, led the process in bringing back people who went on pilgrimage from Lagos State. This may not be the appropriate time to ask whether, state government is still involved in sending people on pilgrimage. There is a war situation in Israel at the time, and I think that other states should follow the example of Lagos State. If they have pilgrims in Israel at this time, they should please bring them back home before we get caught, in the crossfire. The British, they've lost over 10 persons. Americans have also been killed in that conflict. The rockets being fired, by the Hamas, about 4,000 as of this morning, does not identify who is from Nigeria, from who is from Britain. There's no separation. So there's conflict there. That's that. Two things from the National Assembly. The House of Reps yesterday, there was a motion by one of the representatives and then a resolution about the use of dollars as a legal tender in Nigeria. This is not the first time the issue will come up. The CBN, I think as far back as 2014, had what they call the de-dollarization circular, under which they said you can't have transactions, using dollar. The CBN Act is also very clear in sections 15 and 20. In fact, further in section 20 sub 5, to say that the legal tender in Nigeria is the naira. But what is the situation that we find in this country today? Landlords, particularly in VI, Ikoyi, and Banana Island, they collect rent in dollars. Okay? Other people transact businesses in this country in dollars. And in fact, even some government agencies, somebody had said if you want to do certain things with the Nigerian Ports Authority, they will prefer that you pay in dollars. Now, I know there is a lot of controversy around that, but one of the ways in which perhaps you can strengthen the naira is for us to respect the naira as legal tender, as the law states. In Ghana, you can't spend dollar, but here in Nigeria, people spend their dollars. Part of the resolution yesterday is that perhaps the CBN should increase the cap on how much naira you can transfer so that people will feel more comfortable transacting business in naira. In the Senate yesterday, there was also an interesting issue. They were talking about crude oil theft. The fact that up to about 2.3 trillion worth of crude oil was stolen in 2023 alone. Now, I think it was Senator Ned Nwoko who was quoting statistics. Well, in this country, only the other day, even the GMD CEO of NNPCL was saying we don't even have accurate data, about, he was referring to fuel consumption. So the data that Senator Ned Nwoko was quoting may not even be accurate. It may be, the situation may be worse. Now, every year, the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is always saying we will investigate crude oil theft. We will investigate crude oil theft. This investigation that Senator Akpabio has ordered that should be conducted by the committees on petroleum, gas, downstream, upstream, Niger Delta affairs, host communities, nothing will come out of it. I can assure you. By next year, you will hear that more fuel has been stolen. And in any case, what are the security agencies doing? We've been told that crude oil production has gone up to 1.51 million barrels per day. Our OPEC quota is 1.74 million barrels per day. So they've been celebrating that. But the truth of the matter is that there is no political will on the part of government to address crude oil theft. And there's also no political will to check the collusion of security agencies. Nigeria is one funny country where people will spend weeks stealing oil, looking for what is inside pipelines. And then it is when they are on the high seas, they are far away in Equatorial Guinea, that the Nigerian Navy will say, Operation Barabo, they will start chasing them. Where were they when they were looking for things in the pipeline? So please, it's not enough to just do this ritual of saying committees should go and investigate. It's a serious issue of economic sabotage.
Absolutely. Well, we're out of time now. We need to go now. But I was just going to highlight Chief Clark's decrying of deplorable state of roads in the South, and especially asking the federal government, side by side, the ultimatum given by the federal government to contractors to fix roads. I hear we have to go now, so unfortunately we can't take that.
Thank you, Emmanuel.